So Rob, you've been here since yesterday, and we've been discussing some of the work that we do and the work that you're doing in sports psychology. What are your general impressions?
Well, I think the thing that stands out to me the most of everything is that we're more similar than different in the approach. I was looking at the model that Team Danmark uses in terms of the athlete development, and it's very much a whole person approach. Which is what we do as well, where we're always working with the basic tenets of the athlete's identity and the athlete's life skills. And I saw that in the pyramid as well. And then you have family of origin in there, and then you have location where they originate in there. And a lot of the contextual factors, the macro factors, are ones that we take into account, and those seem to be basic tenets that happen before you get into the mental skills part. So it's the orientation of the athlete to the high performance setting, but it's also the orientation of the mental performance consultant to the athlete, doing that kind of work. So it's foundational work for all concerned.
So there are many similarities in the way we approach the area of sports psychology.
Yeah.
Do you see any things that we do differently here, that you do differently, than that could be a good venue for us to explore in the future?
Yeah, and I think one of the things we talked about this morning was the way of doing intake interviews. Yeah. And this is a very common thing even with athletes in North America and in Canada, is people have their generic way of getting to know athletes. And coming from more of a partial research assignment that I do as a Canada Research Chair, is I do come to the conclusion through qualitative research that the more inductive that process is, as opposed to guiding and targeted in questions, the more you learn about the athlete's identity. So for example, one of the things we're doing is we're doing something called a mandala drawing, which is a circular drawing where you ask the athlete about who they are and their journey into sport, and you give them a series of colored pencils and a piece of paper, and they draw either within the circle or outside of the circle, or they'll draw a tree, or they'll draw a river, or some other sort of image of a pyramid, or some sort of shape, and within it they draw the things that are meaningful in relation to who they are, both as an athlete and as a person. And then what you can do is you can take that particular drawing and explore the different aspects of the drawing, where they're positioned in relation to the drawing, what the size of the small images are. Some are going to be larger, some are going to be smaller, why the color selection.
And this you use as a basis to understand what it is we need to help the athletes with in terms of building their mental strength.
Well, the reason why is because it's guided entirely by the athlete. So you know right away what some of the social locations are of the athlete, how the athlete sees her or himself, and that gives you a pretty good starting point that you would otherwise miss through, through just a simple narrative approach. If you could actually get them to lead their narrative approach of their process or their journey through sport through the diagram, then you, for one, empower them. You launch a relationship where they're actually the lead, because at the bottom line in performance is that the mental performance consultant always goes off to the side at a certain point, and the athlete has to perform. And I work with boxing, so at a certain point, the coaches and the sports psychologists go down the stairs, and what's left in the ring is the athlete. And it's the same thing as the athlete leads this process, and it should be, in my view, like that from the very beginning in the relationship with the mental performance consultant.
Yeah. What are keys, do you think, to building mental strength in athletes?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that we agree on from your model to my view of the world is working with the whole person before you work with the mental skills. Yeah. And so to me it happens in three basic stages, and it's not necessarily linear, but first you have the core skills, and the core skills are life skills, and aspects of the person, outside of sport. Examples of life skills would be sleep management and sleep hygiene, time management, communication skills, self-care, self-grooming. It could even dental care, diet. All of those are basic life skills pieces that I've come across in variations with different young athletes as they come onto the national team. And then there's the identity piece of who they are, where they come from, what their orientation, sexual orientation is, what their family of origin is. And once we understand those, then it clears the way to working on specific mental skills in relation to who the athlete is and what they need in a very targeted way. But if the basics are not solidified early, what happens is you go with the mental skills into the major games events, into the Olympics, and the athlete is not going to be a consistent performer because, one, they don't have proper sleep habits, or they don't have proper eating habits, or they don't have proper stress management habits. So the basis always comes down to the whole person before you get funnel into the sport-specific aspects of mental skills.
Yeah. In the end here, maybe you can say, I don't know if it's possible, but can you give any advice for us as Team Denmark moving on into the area of sports psychology?
Yeah, and I think it's even in a homogeneous culture like Denmark, each athlete as a high performance athlete is idiosyncratic. And maybe it's more homogeneous than Canada, or conversely, maybe it's not as homogeneous as people think. And the bottom line is that every world champion, an Olympic champion, or professional world champion is a unique boutique operation. And so looking for the idiosyncratic aspects of the athlete, if you start looking for them, you'll find them. And then if you find them, you can help centralize them and help the athlete develop their personal resources and their personal strengths. And you work with them on an individual basis for who they are, as opposed to working with a partial person or working across people in a cross-cultural approach where everyone gets the same skills. So that what you're obviously doing is, instead of treating everyone the same, you're treating everyone equally based on their own individuality.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe just one final question. What is the strength of our setup in Team Denmark, do you think, in terms of the sports psychology as you've seen it these last?
Yeah, I think the standout about your staff is that there's convergences, so that you have a model that you've all pulled together to create, so that even if, regardless of who's traveling to the event, there's consistency in services, and and what that means to an athlete is there's a comfort level that, regardless of who the provider is on site, that there will be those services, which creates a level of familiarity. And things at major games events should not deviate very much. What they get at home should be, it's sort of like the McDonald's hamburger, whether you have it in Copenhagen, or you have it in Singapore, or you have it in Montreal, Canada. It has the same burger and the same special sauce. It's the same ingredients that travel from location to location. And I like that consistency very much. I think that's the correct way to go.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It's been really inspirational.
Yeah.